Hi, hello. Welcome to the fourth in a series of 5 videos, or if you're on the Learner platform, 5 modules on health and safety committees. This workshop or set of modules meets all of the requirements of the Alberta Occupational Health and Safety Legislation for health and safety committees. So by the time you've completed all 5 modules on the Learner Management System or on the Learner System, you will be able to print out a certificate and you'll have met the requirements to be an official Health and Safety Committee member. Congratulations. Anyway, let's look at what this module involves. We're going to talk about how the Health and Safety Committee supports the rights of workers. Your job as a Health and Safety Committee member is to essentially be ambassadors for safety. So in this module, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the rights of workers, shall we say, and how you support it. By the time you're done this, you'll have a good understanding of what the 3 basic worker rights are under the legislation. You'll understand and learn how to promote those rights as part of your Health and Safety Committee role. You'll also understand about worker protection from retribution or retaliation from exercising those rights, or for reporting issues to the Alberta OHS group. And you'll also know, by the time you're done, how this knowledge helps to complement the safety culture. So what are these workers' 3 rights? And most people get them. Or sometimes. The one that most people remember is the one I'll talk about last, but there's the right to know, the right to participate, and the right to refuse. So let's talk about all 3 of these in depth. The first one being the right to know. Workers have the right to be informed about the potential hazards associated with the tasks they're performing and any hazards where they're working. So that's that right to know. They also have the right to know about the controls that they need to use to mitigate those hazards, to significantly reduce them so that work can go on safely. The employer is also required by the legislation to provide the necessary safety information, training, and supervision so that worker can work safely. I'll talk more about responsibilities and how they mirror rights in a bit. There's also on this the right to participate. Workers have the right to take part in identifying and resolving health and safety concerns. In fact, this is entrenched in the legislation. Workers need to be involved in the hazard assessment, identification, assessment, and control process because they're intimately involved with the tasks that they perform. Workers also have the right to participate in health and safety activities. This includes being involved in the Health and Safety Committee and participating in inspections and investigations. So this right to participate is meaningful participation, not just the fact that, oh, well, we put the safety information on the billboard or on the bulletin board, you should check it out. No, it has to be meaningful participation. But on that note, I have an important question I want to ask you as a Health and Safety Committee member, okay? Because you're an ambassador for safety. So I have to ask you, what have you done to make your workplace safer this week? If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comments below. If you're on the Learner platform, you can get back to me somehow. I'm pretty sure there's an email address there, but you check it out. Anyway, let's talk more about this one that everybody gets, and that's the right to refuse. Now, workers can refuse to perform tasks they believe that are dangerous to their health and safety, and that's where it's an undue hazard, where it's immediately dangerous. Okay, like the roof is not quite secured anymore and working under it, it may fall on me. Or there's a hole in the floor beside me, something to that effect. Or it's dangerous to the health and safety of others. Now, that right also extends to training to perform the job safely. So if a worker is being told or asked to do work that's not germane to the regular duties, they're not trained to do it safely, then you know what? They can refuse to do that work. Say, for instance, I had a worker reach out to me, and they were a retail cashier, and their boss wanted them to take a very tall stepladder and change the lights. They had no idea. They didn't even know how to do a pre-use inspection of the ladder. They knew nothing about it. They didn't even know how to change the lights. They were just told to figure it out. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comments below if that worker could refuse that work. Those of you on the learner platform, might be something to think about. Anyway, this right also protects workers from being forced to work in those unsafe conditions. It's important to note that workers are also duty-bound to report the dangerous or unsafe situation and ensure that others in the vicinity are at least warned, if not protected from the danger. So just because you have the right to refuse doesn't mean you can go running off and leave that unsafe condition present.
Warning, warning.
You have a duty to warn others at minimum. There's also worker protection. Workers cannot be disciplined or face negative consequences for exercising their health and safety rights. You can't. It's in the legislation. It's entrenched in the legislation. It's firmly there. These worker rights also extend to not being disciplined for complying with OHS legislation. I mean, if you've been told to perform a job and you want to perform it safely and use and follow and comply with the legislation, you can't be disciplined to it. You do have the opportunity for recourse, and there is, I'll leave links in the description on the YouTube video, and there'll be links in the course narrative, but I encourage you to read up about it. You do have the opportunity for recourse if the employer disciplines a worker who has exercised their rights under the legislation or followed the rule of law. The employer is required by law to establish that they took action for a reason other than the worker following the law. In other words, the discipline has to be justified for another reason. I should go on to note that workers who are part of a collective agreement must resolve that disciplinary action and complaints through the collective agreement process, okay? Workers who are not part of a collective agreement can reach out and make a complaint to an OHS officer. Complaints to an OHS officer must be filed within 180 days of that disciplinary action. You also have to realize officers can refuse to investigate if they think the complaint's being made out of revenge or without merit. Workers can also appeal those refusals, but just a thing to be noted. Okay, so you've got that legislation, and what it does is it gives you confidence that you can exercise your rights as a worker. You as Health and Safety Committee members, part of what you want to be doing is making sure that all workers in your workplace have an awareness of this. Now, I just want to give you one other piece of advice here. Rights lead to responsibilities. In fact, rights are a mirror image of duties. Rights of workers also produce duties. For instance, you have the right to know. Now, part of that right to know is also you participating in any required training that you may need so that you can know about the hazards. Okay. Another way to think about it is you also have the right to refuse, but you also have that responsibility to that duty of care. If you've refused unsafe work or dangerous work, doesn't mean you can walk away. You have to ensure that others in the vicinity are not endangered as well. So what do you as a committee do to promote awareness? Okay. Part of it should be recommending education and training to workers, and also raising awareness for workers about their rights. And you can do this through training sessions, targeted safety campaigns. Say, for instance, all across Canada, we have April 28th is the day of remembering for workers that were injured or killed on the job. Good time to do that, just as a thought. You can encourage open discussions and addressing misconceptions about worker rights, and that's vital. Okay, having that opportunity during an inspection, for instance, you might stop and ask a worker, "Hey, can you tell me your 3 rights?" You'd be surprised sometimes the answers you get. Visibility of your committee efforts helps to reinforce the importance of these rights and keep the awareness there at a high level. Okay, now what's the benefit? When you're promoting worker rights, it contributes to a culture where safety is prioritized and valued. It's a big thing. Okay? Workers feel more respected and valued when their rights are acknowledged and protected. An engaged worker is more than likely to report hazards and more than likely to be an active participant in a safety program. Ultimately, when you get right down to it, this leads to a very much safer and more compliant and productive work environment. You can exercise your rights as a worker and not have any fear. You as a Health and Safety Committee member, it's up to you to promote those rights. And you know what? Taking that opportunity, even if it's over coffee or just a water cooler talk. It's a good notion because what you're doing is you're being a leader. You're being that titleless leader. You're promoting safety, and you're doing it regardless of any other concern. That's safety leadership. Now, in the next module, I'm going to talk more about safety leadership and what it means for you as a health and safety committee member. Those of you that are on YouTube, you can look at that right up here. Those of you that are on the learning platform, you can do a quick 5-question exam and move on to the safety leadership module. Until then, take care. Bye for now.